Welcome to the second annual Conversational Pace Finn Melanson Cocodona gear episode. If you're listening to this, welcome back or welcome to the Single Track podcast. Finn, we get to talk Cocodona. It's about that time. I said second annual. I made it sound like this is a thing that's going to happen every year.
Jules will kill me if this happens every year.
Yeah. Should this be like the final Cocodona for a while?
You know when the bands always say it's their final tour, but it's like never
Yeah.
their final tour. Like this is our final tour.
Yeah. Like, so the encore remastered greatest hits album will come out in a decade.
But I want to say one thing before we start, because I think Cocodona is a great case study for this, or sorry, I should say proof point for this. I believe that gear absolutely matters. Like I think, and I am totally an environmentalist, but like when I get ready for a race like Cocodona, I will be the first to say that high quality, premium, like best in class for each of your categories, I think makes a huge difference, especially if you're in it competitively in the race. But even if you just want to get from start to finish comfortably and like focusing on running and enjoying your surroundings, like I'm in my second multi-day race in the sport now, and I've done some through hikes before this, and I've had experiences where I've been like really testing the outer bounds of ultralight. In other cases, maximalizing everything. I feel like I've hit a happy medium coming into this year's race, but like high quality stuff matters. It absolutely does.
Yeah. I guess this is more of a super shoe joke than perhaps anything you'll wear at Cocodona. But because you said like maximalist and like going for all the gear, like, are you giving an entire new meaning to the term carbon footprint?
I'm going to have to buy a ton of offsets after Cocodona.
Oh yeah, dude. So many trees you're about to plant. So I guess we should start with, I think it would be interesting if anyone hasn't, like, go and quickly listen through last year's gear episode, because, one thing I want to talk about is maybe a few pieces of gear that you went into the race thinking you were going to heavily rely on and then maybe didn't touch at all.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is going into last year's race, I was approaching every single logistical problem that the race presents with a trail runner's mindset. And I think that Cocodona, I realized after last year, Cocodona is a multi-theater, multi-discipline race. Like there are multiple sports that are brought into the fold, and there are parts of the race, especially on day one, where even if you're at the very front of the race, it is advantageous to think, prepare, and outfit yourself like a thru hiker. And I made the mistake, I think, on day one last year of two things. One, I really messed up my hydration because I was using, and this is no fault of any particular company, but I was using those hydration reservoirs with the long stems that could like reach over your shoulder or from around your side carriage, and you could like clip it onto any part of the front side of your pack. And
yeah, those were popular last year.
It was, and it made me look like gosh, who's like one of the villains there in Spider-Man? The later
the
Spider-Man ones?
dude with like all the arms.
I
know.
know.
Yeah, I know you're talking.
I just looked like this at the start, like a cyborg. And basically, I think those things are only effective if you can really angle the stem correctly. And what happened was I spent the entire first 50K section, which is super remote, very few aid stations, no crew support. I had like 12 pounds of water on my back, and I think I got through maybe 2 of the pounds because the stems weren't transporting water optimally, and I had no sense of like how much I had left. So I never shed weight. I wasn't getting enough hydration in, and I was also stuffing it all into this Solomon 12-liter pack, which was just bursting at the seams, not carrying weight efficiently. I should have had 20, 30, 40-liter pack, a bunch of 500 ml bottles just like thrown in the back, and maybe stopping once every hour and a half just to like reorganize, put 4 new fresh bottles up front. And like, even though that would have been annoying, it would have saved me like probably an hour or two in the first section. So I thought that I was going to just really rely on this elegant solution of like a 12-liter pack from like start to finish. And no, I mean, one of the changes I'm making this year is like I'm going to be swapping out all the time. I think in, like for the first 80 miles, I'll use a through hiking type pack. Middle sections, I'll go to the raid belt. In the final section, I'll go back to like a Solomon 12 liter. But it's very much multidiscipline, multi theater.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. The biggest obstacle that it seems like I hear about the most at Cocodona is how are you going to deal with the start and the amount of water you have to carry? Because I mean, how many miles do you go before hitting the first aid station, which is water only? And
Okay,
you're only allowed to take a certain amount from that aid station, right?
your first aid station is 7.5 miles in. It's Cottonwood Creek, and actually there it's a free for all. So it's crazy.
That one's
Everyone
free
goes there.
for all.
It's like this bountiful water source. It's almost like you're in like the African savannah, and you come across this, amazing source, and you just everyone is like. Anyways, you can grab whatever you want, and there I'll probably grab 5 liters, no joke. But after that, you have two water stations, one at mile 10, one at mile 24. You have a maximum of 1 liter each. And I remember last year when I was with, I think his name is Matt Smith. We shared a lot of miles together. We were banking on that 1 liter at the mile 24 water station. And of course, Vandal had come in and like dumped all the jugs. And Noah,
Really?
who's the race director for Tushers and a couple of the other Aeroviper races, he was there. And I think we were like the first runners to get there before, or sorry, after it had gotten vandalized. And he's like, guys, I'm sorry, but like, here's a couple drops. Like, this is what I got left.
Oh
Like, keep
my
going.
God.
So I mean, I will count on them, but I also won't count on them. It's like trust but
Yeah.
verify. I'm planning on just carrying a ton out of that Cottonwood Creek aid station and relying on nothing until Lane Mountain, which is mile 32. And that's like your first full aid. Ultra Spire sponsors that one. It's like the first full aid station before you see a your crew at Crown King 4 miles later.
Okay. So what pack are you going to start the race with?
Okay, let me grab this for you. This is actually a late addition to the mix. It is the Ultimate Direction Fast Pack. It's its 20-liter version. I think in the category that I'm looking for, which is sort of like a hybrid through hiking pack, I actually think there's a ton of market opportunity here. I don't think anyone has quite nailed it because, and the reason I say that, when I look at these packs, what I want as a consumer is a trail running front side where it's like really like Solomon type material, easy to get bottles in and out, not too starchy. Everything is intuitive from like where you'd put gels, all that kind of stuff. This pack in the class, I think, does the best. Like I can pretty comfortably fit two 500 ml flasks in here. A lot of good storage here for gels, like on the front side. And then what I'm going to do, and this is somewhat inefficient, but I think it's better than what I did last year, is this is like a little fold top. I'm going to dump like 9 more 500 ml flasks in here. Sorry, 7 in the back and 2 in these sidewall compartments. And I'm just going to carry until Crown King, basically, Lane Mountain.
Yeah. I don't think that's a bad idea because I've had the same issue as you with like reservoirs in the back being like, oh yeah, I've got 2 liters, 3 liters. But then you just start subconsciously rationing the water because you can't see how much you've consumed and you keep like gaslighting yourself thinking that you're drinking all of it when you really aren't. And then you end up getting to the aid station, you're like, ah, damn, I only drank half of it or whatever. So I'm all for, I've always been like on long runs recently, I'll put like 2 or 3 more just regular soft bottles in my back and then just swap them out as I drink them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think it's smart. The other thing too is like it doesn't happen as much anymore, but dude, you poke a hole in your reservoir or it has a leak, you've just effed your one bottle. You have 7 or 9 opportunities to totally jack yourself up. So like you pop one of them, like or one of them has a leak or something, you fall and stab one with a cacti. The other ones will survive.
Totally agree. I should say one more thing about the pack, which I think is kind of cool. Just from like a ventilation standpoint, I think one thing that it does better than a traditional trail running vest like the Solomons, there there is some there's a little bit of a frame to this pack, as you can see here, with like cool netting
Mm-hmm.
ventilation, and it sits a little bit off the back, just a little bit, with still providing structure, not too much bounce. I've tested it so that you get a little bit of airflow coming in and out, and you're not generating too much heat off your back, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah. It's funny how I feel like we see ultimate direction packs like at like their vests, their race vests at the front of races less and less. But in these 200-mile plus races and like FKTs, you still see Ultimate Direction everywhere.
Totally.
I feel
Totally.
like they are still one of like the dominant pack builders as you go higher in capacity.
Here's what I was hoping, and I know you and I both saw this at TRE last year. Kip Run is making a fascinating multi-day pack, and I
Yes.
reached out to them a couple times just saying like, hey, I work for this company, Conversational Pace. I have the single track thing. Like, I would love to do some sort of gear trade where like we could give you a little bit of visibility in exchange to test the pack at Cocodona or something. And didn't hear back, but I don't know when this thing is coming to market. It might already be on their website, but I was kind of frothing at the mouth over that one because to date, that has been the pack that I feel after trying it on comes the closest to what I'm trying to achieve for this for 50K at Cocodona.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's got the four soft
Yeah.
flask capacity on the front. I mean, I remember when I saw it at TRE, I like ran back to the Keen booth and like grabbed you and was like, "Bit, I know you don't have very many minutes to walk the showroom floor, but this is the one thing
Go
you
check it
need to
out.
see." Yeah. But
One critique I have for this fast pack, like there's really good bottle storage here on the sidewalls. I'm not the most flexible person, but I do think even someone of my build and dexterity, I should be able to easily access this. And basically, if I want to really like make sure that I've correctly stowed the bottle or taken it out, I have to almost stop and like pull it around me a
mm.
little bit. So some of the sort of like side and back access isn't amazing, but I think this is going to be a huge upgrade over what I did last year.
Will you start with like a waist belt at all, or just good with the pack?
Okay, so actually, I didn't mean for this to be a whole Ultimate Direction ad. The For the majority of the race, I'm going to be using the raid belt. In fact, there's going to be sections where I'm just using a raid belt only, no pack, nothing. Um, I'm a little nervous in the first section about just having like too much like material on me. I don't know if that makes sense, but like too much like heavy or like fabricy material, and so um, Jason Schlarb has these Schlarb shorts. I can't really say that without saying it weird, but
Schlag
uh,
shorts.
I can't say it fast. And basically, what's cool about this short is it's got these internal pockets around the hip, and I'm not going to put anything in there except for my trash. So as I'm
Mm.
taking down gels, I'm just going to put trash in there, and I could probably honestly fit about like 10 or 12 compressed gel packets in here. It also kind of like sits off the hip pretty well for air. Like all the I don't know like you know weaving terms or design seaming terms, but like it just sits on my legs well. It's pretty airy. The rest of the race I'll be using like Gorewear Conquer shorts and stuff, but just because these ones have the internal pockets on the hip, and I don't want to have a pack and a belt on at the same time, I'm going to go with these.
Nice, nice. Okay. I guess because we've kind of naturally segmented this first part, like basically start to Crown King ish, maybe even beyond. What do you got for shoes for the start? I know offline we were just talking about uh, the Gator dilemma.
Yeah, so I think I'm pretty confident at this point that the first 50K of the race is dedicated to conversational pace testing, just because I think this is such an intriguing section to test any gear in. Is it okay if I like blow the cover on some stuff we have in the pipeline just for the sake of this discussion?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
So
mean, shoot, man, there might be some shoes that you have that I don't even know about right now. So let's see.
So a couple that are under consideration. And again, I should say for context, I think for this particular section, I'm looking for stability and just overall comfort, and maybe a little bit in the way of traction. So kind of like your classic like long haul trucker type shoe that
Mhm.
maybe you're skimping a little bit on performance, but it's going to get you to point B intact,
Yeah,
and like
which ended up being the Zagama 2 for
and
you
actually, I
this
had
year.
I had some issues with the Zagama in this section because I had a bunch of heel slippage, just because there is frequent ups and downs, and it was like I had some lockdown issues with the heel. First one under consideration, Brooks Cascadia 19. I think it checks all the boxes I just described.
Comes out
Um,
in August.
Comes out in August. Ultra Timp Boa under
That's
consideration.
available, and that is
Available.
available.
Um, Ultra Mount Blanc Speed,
Also available.
the Mafate
X, the
X.
Mafate X. Um, Are there any shoes that we've already reviewed that you would consider throwing into the quiver?
I don't think
Or
so, only because if I'm not going to be using Nordas, I'm going to devote shoe time to whatever we have in the hopper, you know? And I also like a part of me is thinking like, I don't know if I'm going to come out of this thing unscathed. So I need to make sure that I have at least a month's worth of conversational pace miles logged, you know?
I mean, I will say I appreciate your dedication to the craft, but absolutely do not sacrifice any bits and pieces of the race just for conversational pace reviewing. Like if you end up starting in the Cascadia and you're like, oh, this feels perfect, and you end up pulling a Zagama and you wear it for 220 of the miles, then we'll just review the Cascadia early. I don't care.
So, anyways, Cascadia, interesting. And then I'm not getting too far ahead, but there's a section right after, which is it's basically Crown King to Whiskey Row, which is it's a 40-mile section again with no crew,
Hmm.
and it's interesting because it's very runnable with some steep climbing, and you're basically on these Forest Service roads and this ridge line in the Bradshaw Mountains, and I might put some miles on the Arc'teryx Norvan here.
Oh, interesting. Is
Um,
there enough cushion in that shoe for like
I
what you're
well,
wanting?
I don't want to get into review, but I'm already seeing. I've only been walking around this. I'm already seeing some creasing in the foam, which is really interesting. Like, and I haven't even
Huh.
run miles in it yet, which is crazy.
That's interesting.
Um,
'Cause, yeah, I didn't think it was I didn't think it was very soft.
it's not soft, but you know what? The upper's super nice.
It is very comfortable.
The upper
Yeah.
of this sits so well on top of my foot. That's a huge consideration. And I don't know. I mean, maybe that one of the different, like, I don't mind firm, like, I don't mind like a firm feeling midsole in these conditions. Like, I'd say the upper matters more to me in a 200,
Yeah.
to be completely honest with you.
Dude, I'm calling it right now. You're just going to end up doing like 200 plus miles in that Mafate X. And
Well, here's the thing. I'm actually like, I'm already at like, I think I'm at, it's, I think I'm at 84 miles in this. So if I did do it, like, it would just be an overkill. Like, I need like two more runs in this and I'm done. Um, actually, you know, I got some, you know, I'm pretty dirty. Uh,
I'm just
so
thinking from a sure like competition standpoint, like you've switched into the shoe, you're running really well, your feet are feeling good,
yeah,
and you're like, I can't be wasting time changing my shoes because they're perfect right now.
if I'm being totally honest with you, and yeah, the Mafate has been a fantastic shoe to test. I think it's going to be from me a pretty positive review. But if I'm being honest, the debate for me is between the Timp Boa and the Cascadia 19.
Yeah. I mean, hell, shoot, Cascadia makes a lot of sense just with the lineage of it, and I know you've got like a soft spot for the shoe. Plus, this new one is like stupid comfortable.
It's yeah, I've had issues with the uppers on the previous two just being like airplane hangery, kind of like some hot spots, and this is a super like plush feeling upper. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, definitely pretty cool shoe. We were talking right before we started recording. You were thinking maybe Gators for the start.
Yeah, so I got some outdoor research brand Gaiters, and I was telling you offline, and again, I might have just missed something in the packaging, but I was a little disappointed because they only came with the front side attachment to the lace garage area and didn't have any. They had like a Velcro piece for the back, and I'll have to go back and look to see if I'm missing like any like sticker material for other model shoes because right now only Ultra can work with what I just purchased. But I do think I'll use Gators in that first 50K. Um, it's one of the few sections that I think is like super loose rock, easy for pebbles to get into your shoes. And um, gosh, when you're like that, when you're in a race like Cocodona, like I was just gonna say, like minutes don't count, but like I now know that they totally do. Like if I have to stop for a minute, like Cocodona is getting to the point where like I might even consider peeing on the run in this race, depending on the circumstances, especially in the first 50K, because I think it's so important to stay in touch. Like I have ambitions to do better than I did last year, and doing
Mhm.
better means staying more in touch with the guys that were 5 and 6 hours ahead of me. And so I need to play that game in the first 50K, and like I can't afford to have to stop. We'll see.
I like what I think it was maybe I guess it was your interview with Caleb after Transgran Canaria where Caleb was talking about how you got to be fit enough so you can play the game. Um,
Totally.
that it's cool to hear that kind of matters now at Cocodona too, where you're like, no, I need to stay in contact with the people I want to beat because they might not ever come back to me. And step one of being able to do that is simply you have to be fit. And
Yeah.
I believe you're fit enough to be able to play the game.
I hope so. And I mean, it's crazy because like you and I did the live stream for the 2023 edition, and we saw what it took in that race to be competitive. And the difference between 2023 and 2024 was insane. I was playing a 2023 game in a 2024 edition, and it was like the fastest amount of natural selection evolution we've ever seen in any environment. It was crazy. I was
Do you
left in the
think
dark.
do you think we'll see a jump of that size from 2024 to 2025?
My bold prediction for this race is that I am going to finish 8 hours faster than I finished last year, but I'm going to move down one place.
Really?
I think I'm going to finish in 62 hours. That's what my splits say, and I think I'm going to finish in eighth place instead of seventh place. So I think despite that level of improvement internally within myself, I I believe there's probably going to be two women ahead of me and 4 to 5 men.
Okay, that'll I'm gonna note that so I
And
can
I think
keep
that
track of those
I actually,
splits.
I mean, if you look at like I went because I've been studying the live stream. If you go back and look at what Harry was doing last year, he was not optimized. He won the race, but he was very far from optimized. He didn't even have a full crew. Like there was this guy who's local to Salt Lake. His name's Derek, who like on a whim like saw that Harry needed a pacer late in the race. Is like, I got nothing to do. I'll hop in with you. Like it was that
Hmm. Yeah.
ad libbed. So like, and he's back. So I just think people took very detailed notes from the impact that Jeff Browning had on the race last year, which was really institutionalizing the competition piece of it and execution. And yeah, I think we're probably looking at like 55, 56 hours for the win this year.
So moving a little bit further along the course, like we kind of just covered more or less the first day ish, maybe like, well, not first 24 hours, but maybe the first like 17, 18 hours. But when you're in your second day of the course, where will you be, probably kind of mileage wise? What's that
Okay. I'm pulling this up
section
right now.
like? You're
So
probably like,
uh,
what,
just to
80?
summarize day one really quickly, I'll say this. What makes Cocodona so interesting on day one at the front of the race is you really only see your crew one time. You see them at Crown King, and after that, you have another 40-ish mile section to Whiskey Row in Prescott. So you're really on your own, working from aid station to aid station. You're working with the course, with the race, as opposed to being able to rely heavily on outside support, which is interesting. But day
What's the
two,
mileage of Crown King and Whiskey Row?
let's see, Crown King is mile 36.6. Whiskey Row is 77.3. Also, by the time
Okay.
you hit Camp Kippa, which is 100K into the race, you've done two-thirds of the climbing.
Really?
So yeah, you've done
You get it.
about
I know the first 50K had a lot of the climbing, but
yeah, you
you
do
do
about
two
you do
thirds.
about I think 17, 18 grand to climbing. Maybe 20. I'd have to go back and look exactly, but yeah, I mean in the chase, there's a scene where Arlen Glick is looking at his watch leaving Camp Kip, and he's like, "Man, like I've just been like waiting for like these runnable sections, but I'm looking at my watch. I've already done two-thirds of the course's, elevation gain. It's insane." Yeah, it gets
Huh.
super runnable after
Wow.
that. So there's just a lot of like day one is still a survival game, and it's a reminder that like, and this is more for the like if you and I are talking to the elites right now that are maybe scoffing at the times at Cocodona, Arlen says it beautifully too. It doesn't matter how good you are, there is no easy way to run 100 miles, whether you are jogging it, racing it, whatever. Like that distance on its own is going to beat you up
Mm-hmm.
for when you have 150 miles left in the race.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but to your question, I am hoping to be cresting Mingus Mountain around 5:20 a.m. at the beginning of day two. So 24 hours into the race, and that's mile 108.3. And this is when you start getting into like the Cottonwood area, Jerome. You're in that valley just before you climb into the Coconino Plateau. So
Yeah.
super hot, super exposed. The cruise stations are more frequent, like it's 7 to 8 to 9 miles between cruise stops. So I can throw on the raid belt, for example, and be pretty nimble, be pretty stripped down. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have to worry about eh, abundant amounts of gear. What about for that first night? Did like last year, did it get cold at all, or were you moving enough where it's like fine?
Still moving enough where you're fine. Yeah. I can see it being problematic because things do get cold, and you do carry required gear in this section. When you leave Crown King, you have to have your cold weather gear set up. It makes sense. Yeah, I'll have, gore wear. I'll have their windbreaker. I'll have one of their thermal long sleeves. I'll have their like windstopper pants, just in case in my pack. But last year I was still in shorts and t-shirt. I was moving like, when I wasn't sitting at an aid station recouping, I was probably moving, 4 or 5 miles an hour downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh, I didn't ask about lights. Last year you did. Did you do all waist light for lighting last year?
yeah, and let me see if I can pull it up here. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, this is the it's like the 900 lumen solstice waist lamp, which is just uh, I think it's fantastic for a number of reasons, but
Is that an
um,
Ultra Spire?
Ultra Spire, I think they're best in
Okay.
class. I think they do. I last year I used Kogala, which is a competitor brand, and
Oh.
Kogala is great too. It's just it's more pieces. Like you have to have this gosh, what's the type of material? But you kind of put it in your waist belt, and it's like magnetic, and then the light attaches on the other side of the waist belt to it.
Oh.
It's like a
Huh.
magnetic connection, and there's just a lot of pieces to it. And so I've been using this one. I tested it,
Yeah.
for example, at Transgrain Canary earlier this year. Lightweight, sits well on the waist, comfortable material. I've never really been a headlamp guy. I've kind of got like an oversized noggin, and just like the pressure of the lamp has always felt weird on my head.
Yeah.
So I've always
Yeah.
been
If I
team
know
waist
you
lamp.
as well as I think I do, you're not a pieces guy.
I'm not a pieces guy. I'm not a pieces guy. But I do, just like, for example, as a backstop, if anything goes awry with the waist lamp, I've got this little handheld Ultra Spire light as well, which detaches from, um, you can detach it from the headlamp version. You can
Oh,
detach it,
okay.
and I can just
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you got such a big head, why don't you just put the waist belt light on your head?
you know what? Don't test me because it probably could work.
Yeah, you never know. Just
um,
keep that in your back pocket,
so little mini,
just in case.
little mini flashlight here if needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. You want to be going over Mingus Mountain by the start of day two. And then what's the next chunk of course? Like Mingus Mountain to Sedona ish?
So yeah, the way I think about the course is like you have four significant climbs. The first one is getting into the Bradshaws, which puts you in Crown King. The second is climbing out of the Prescott Valley to get up to Mingus. And then the next one is the climb onto the Coconino Plateau from Sedona. And the final is cresting Eldon into Flag. But yeah, Mingus is a high point of the course. And then you do this massive 17-mile descent into Jerome, which is this super cool resort town in central Arizona. Um, and from there, you shortly after that make this like long sort of plodding climb up to Sedona and then up onto the
Okay.
plateau.
What what footwear would you like to do that 17-mile descent in?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could see a world where we're still testing these long haul trucker type shoes, because the first like 5 miles of that descent is on fairly like loose rock beddy, but also single track switchback downhill. And I remember last year just like it being a strain because I was exhausted, and but also still had to have the mental faculties to focus with each step. Um, and I think I will want protection here. So,
Mm-hmm.
I could see again putting more testing miles on the Cascadia or the Mafate. Um, but I do think when we get into Jerome, basically from Jerome onward, I'm turning to this trail super shoe for the rest of the way, the Norda 005. I'll probably pull out all the stops, and this is the place that like Arlen started to make his serious moves last year, and it becomes a running race. And
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I've tested this at the Buffalo Run 50-mile earlier this year, um, Trans Gran Canaria, etc. We put a bunch of testing miles on it in our review, which we can link if you want. Um, it's a great shoe for Cocodona too, especially for the parts that I want to tune it into.
So it starts getting much more runnable like after Jerome, you would say.
incredible.
Okay.
I mean, I would say it gets runnable after Whiskey Row. Like I could turn to this shoe
What miles
before
that?
77.
Okay.
That's like your second crude stop on the course. I really could turn to this shoe then. It just becomes a question of like how much more like protection over and underfoot do I want, and how much do I want to quote unquote like save my feet
Yeah.
for? Because if we're talking about Jerome, I'm planning to get to Jerome around 8:50 a.m. on day 2, and if things are going amazing, I am finishing the next day around like 7 p.m. ish. So like, you
Okay.
know, that putting 30 hours time on feet in the 5, that's a lot,
That
for a
is,
racing
yeah.
shoe, that's a lot of time.
I always get super in my head too about like switching like the 005, that's the lightest shoe you're gonna bring with you. And like
Crazy.
I always get super in my head about throwing on like the lightest shoe and then potentially switching into something heavier. In my head I'm like, okay, start with the bulky shoe and then if I'm feeling good, you get that boost by knocking like 3 ounces off of each foot. But then it's like, oh man, if I got to switch back to the Mafate X and add like 4 ounces to each shoe, I'm not running anymore. So then it's
Now
like,
that
when do you make that switch?
I know. And actually now that I'm trying to pull up the map to make sure I have it correct. Yeah. So the true low point in this section is just before the Dead Horse aid station, and you do make this pretty famous river crossing where you're waist deep. And so now that I think about it, I'll probably turn to the 5 after that river crossing just because I want it to be fresh. And if I'm getting all this sand and silt and just like soaking in the other shoes, that's fine because I was going to make the pivot anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to take it in Jerome and then 5 miles later have to take a river crossing with it, I mean, it would be fine, but I want like optimal.
Totally. So then once you get past Sedona, I remember I'm like, this is all off the dome right now. Like I don't have anything pulled up. It's like pretty flat, like little ups and downs from Sedona all the way until you like hit Flagstaff. Like it's like a little bit up or flat, but there's like no significant ups or downs, right?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
There's you when you hit Sedona, you have this one. Last year it was the Kasner climb, which was heinous. It's this really steep climb to get onto the plateau. But once you get onto the plateau, so Sedona is mile. Let me just make sure I have all this correct. Sedona is mile
It's like 120.
162,
Oh, it's
162,
162.
and basically once you get to Foxborough Ranch, which is mile 177, 15 miles later, from mile 177 until about Walnut Canyon, mile 230, we're talking 56, almost 60 miles, 53 miles, you can cruise. I mean, you
Yeah.
basically have a super runnable 50 mile with, I'm pulling up the map right now. I mean, maybe a couple thousand feet of climbing, maybe 2,000 feet of
Yeah.
climbing.
That's flat.
So if
So
you have the legs, you can
you're
run
yeah, if you have good legs, like if you're winning this race, you're running like more or less that whole section.
100%.
Okay.
Hiking the
Um,
climb to get onto the plateau, but like the next 50
yeah.
miles, you should be running every single step.
Yeah. Where are you at with poles? You start with them?
I'm gonna start with them. Yeah. Uh, Lucky poles are my number one. I will say these are warranted. Thank you, Lucky, for honoring the warranty. I have broken 4 pairs. We can debate whether or not I use poles correctly, and that's the source of why they break. But I will say this as an A/B test. I've had these black diamond poles, which are substantially heavier, but they don't break. So I have these. I'm bringing these as a backstop. I have them in a Lucky case right now, but it's just the black diamond standard trail running poles. These are like the FX Elite lights or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and so even though we just were talking about how I'm planning on running like most of the final ish 50 miles of the race, I do still think I'll bring the poles, and I could see myself creating a running stride at 10 to 12 minute pace, and the poles are just there for support.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I like the slow jog with the poles. I kind of like it. It feels like, I just go, I don't know, a little four-wheel drives, like Mondo Duplantis pole vaulter action. Like, I don't know.
Distributes weight better, right? Like it's not all going to your legs.
That's how I've always seen it. And like that's what I've heard from a lot of like schemo people where it's like you just like let the weight of your arm like push it down, like even just a little bit. And it's
Yeah.
like that's a couple pounds of force that's like off your body. And, taking that back to the Bill Bowerman quote that you threw down a couple of episodes ago. You're like, well, if I'm taking 10,000 steps an hour and I'm reducing 2 pounds of pressure per pull strike, dude, that's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight that you're saving. Um, oh, there was a question I forgot to ask. Were there any significant pivots that you made last year from a gear standpoint where you were just like, this isn't working? I got to switch this, and you like figured it out midway through the race?
Yeah. So on day one, I was eating like it was a 50-mile to 100K race. I was just really going in on gels and, high-ish carb drink mix and just like laying it on with the sugar. And this was probably a point of contention last year for people that watched the live stream or our social media coverage. But like, I kind of pivoted from the beginning of day two onward to a through hiker diet. Like I have some stuff, and like I'm going to show you what I'm going to be eating on day two. Well, in the bottles, and again, so I partner with Knack, and this is their recovery mix. It's like their mango coconut flavor. But if you like Tailwind, if you like Goo, if you like any of their drink mixes, by all means, do it. I think these recovery drink mixes taste great. They have a really balanced macronutrient profile. I think I'm moving slow enough. Like if you're under 6 miles per hour, I think that's slow enough to ingest this stuff and not really
Hmm.
cramp up or anything. Got Pringles. I've got
Love me a good
Idaho
air
instant mashed
potato.
potatoes. I've got Top Ramen. And then I think these are sweet, but I love mandarin oranges, taking down like cups of
Oh,
mandarin oranges.
dude, the mandarin orange juice
So yeah,
in
they're
there,
great.
so
So
good.
basically solids, I'll do that. Like I'll have my crew will have ramen and the potatoes ready at every aid station. Um, Emphasis on the pasteurized, might do some whole milk at times as well. Um,
Emphasis on pasture.
Emphasis on pasteurized. I'm team pasteurized. Uh, and then yeah, like this will be in my bottles from like Whiskey Row onward, I would say. Like I'll do the Knack has this new Boost Energy line out. It's their high carb take. So I'll do this
Yeah.
stuff like to Whiskey Row, and then I'll move over as I start to slow down to the recovery mix.
Yeah,
So
I
that
don't
was a
think I've
good
ever
lesson.
really done I've never really done anything quite long enough where I get to that point where I'm like running foods just are not satiating. Like maybe the last 10 miles of both of my western states where I was just kind of blowing up. I got like a little taste of it, but it wasn't for performance at all. It was just for like me not giving a shit anymore. Um, but it's interesting how like you kind of still get to that point in a race where it's like you said, like if you're like going like 10-minute pace or under, given your current fitness, it's like yeah, you're wanting more than just sugar.
I don't know. So in like shorter races, I have never thrown up enough times in the race to have had this experience. But at Cocodona, after the second time that I had like a pretty violent throw up session, which was at Camp Kippa, about 100K into the race, I was just after that, I think my body was so depleted, I was craving savory foods. And then
Mm,
that savory craving never left for the entirety of the race. I wanted like burgers and stuff like that. I
yeah,
stopped at the Fain Ranch aid station, which is the Satisfy one, and they were making these, gourmet, super tricked out blueberry pancakes. And I think I took down like three of those before going up Mingus, and it worked.
that is one thing that's amazing. That if even if you're not running Cocodona, go read through like page through the Cocodona runner's manual, because like as boring as that sounds, it's a fantastic read. Which yes, I've done it. It's like 80 pages long. You learn all about the course, you learn about the area. Like sure, there's like rules and stuff you can skip through that because you're not running. But the aid stations and then the menus for the aid station, that's something I've never seen in another runner manual.
Hmm.
And just the spread across the Cocodona course is absolutely amazing. Like every single aid station has like a signature dish.
Yeah, we were having a discussion with our friends about across the ultra running landscape, the most susceptible aid stations to the DNF at, and
Oh
I
yeah.
commented Fain Ranch because again, do what Brett just said. Go look at the menu at Fain Ranch for food. The types of couches and chairs they have there. It is so gourmet. It's very hard to press on.
See, my debate, like my counter argument, or my submission for best aid station to DNF at, and I guess there's a debate there on whether this should count or not. And for me, it was the start finish of Javelina because it is an aid station.
Hmm.
Like technically, it's an aid station, but it's also a fat party, and there's so much good stuff going on. I was like, that's a great aid station to drop out on. I know from experience.
You've had the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
Oh, I know. It's. I just wanted to get the whole. I just wanted to get the whole spectrum of emotions at Javelina that across this few years. But so I guess going to the last section of the course.
Hmm.
So I guess we're kind of into like day 2.5 to 3.
It's basically the
It's
beginning of day three. Yeah, beginning of day three.
beginning of day 3. You start getting a little bit higher. You enter like the, I don't know, what do you call it, the Flagstaff just kind of area. Like
Yep.
what should we call it? Like mile 220, 220-ish onward? Is it earlier than that where you
Yeah,
start
basically
smelling the finish line?
when you get to mile 214, you could actually probably throw a football from Fort Tuthill to Northern Arizona University. But
Okay,
you
Uncle Rico.
but you do this. I mean, if you look at the map, you do this crazy. I know, right? You do this crazy button hook to the right. So like as
Yeah.
the crow flies, you're so close at Fort Tuttle, but then you just you go east, and then you go north, and then you button hook around Eldon, then you come back down from the south to Flag.
And the Eldon section is different this year, right?
It's heinous, and I don't actually, well, from what I understand, I could be wrong here, but I don't think they intentionally changed it. I think they were forced to change it because of permitting issues. But yeah, you used to ascend Eldon heading north, and then you would button hook and come down the Forest Service access road that Brett, you and I did multiple times in 2023.
Yeah.
And you had this kind of nice, I'm not going to say it was pedestrian, but it was for having been 250 miles into the race, it was a pretty nice way to end the thing. And this time around, the climb is easier. So it's not as steep and, techy, but you are going down the route that you climbed up in previous years, which is just terrible. And it's going to be a huge challenge because, yeah, like even on my best day, I'm going to be 2.5 days into this thing, probably no sleep if things go according to plan. And I have to have the presence of mind to like somehow get down this thing without
Dude,
like getting a
ketones.
serious injury or fall. Yeah,
You need to slam like $100 worth of ketones at that Eldon aid station.
I know. So yeah, we'll see how this all shapes up. It'll be the first year. I mean, its trail running courses have to change as other things kind of come up, but this is definitely an interesting twist.
Is there anything, I guess, I mean, it's probably hard to predict really what you're actually going to end up using by day 3 from a gear standpoint. Hopefully you're in the Norda 005 at that point and
Hmm.
you survive Eldon. After you finished the race last year, as you then started thinking about towards this year, was there already anything on your mind where you're like from a gear standpoint, like I didn't do this last year, I need to do that this year?
It was less about, well, other than the stuff that we talked about at the very front with just that first 50K section, I think the only other thing that really gnawed at me was when I looked at Strava, I believe that I had like my elapsed time versus run time, the delta there was about 8 hours. And I only slept for about 35 minutes of those, which means that I spent about 7.5 hours of the race just lingering with my crew,
Just dicking around.
socializing, dicking around, uh, not having a sense of urgency, like not treating it like a NASCAR pit crew experience.
Yeah.
And so I think this time around, and also, by the way, huge credit to my crew because to be fair to myself and them, I think it was one of those situations where like we were just happy to be there. We were happy to have like still been alive
Yeah.
130 miles into the race. So it's like it was kind of like the wonder every time. It's like, oh my gosh, like
He's
you're
still
still
going.
right. You're still going. Like
Yeah,
this is amazing.
totally.
And then we'd like have like a little party, we just
Yeah.
we like swap in stories around the campfire. It's like, oh, I should go to the next aid station, right? And they're like, yeah, I think you
Dude,
probably should.
Maddie had the baby.
Yeah, Maddie had a baby.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Do you remember what mile that was at?
Oh my gosh.
Because you. So I mean, Benji was born at 1 p.m., which I think we're on the same time zone. So that
It was
the race started at
Pacific,
6,
5 a.m. Pacific.
5 a.m. So that would have been 7 hours into your race.
Yep.
Benji would have been born, and then you probably would have gotten. We probably would have. I probably texted you or Jules or someone like. I
I
mean,
remember being
probably within 12 hours of that.
Yeah, I remember being told around Iron King, which was like before Mingus Mountain,
Yeah.
which actually could be attributed to that news. Scott Rokas, who was filming on top of Mingus that day, said I looked the best going through. I had the highest energy. So maybe it's because I was riding the high of Brett being a new dad.
Yeah, perhaps. Well, yeah, now I mean now Cocodona always has a special spot in our hearts because we were watching it. We were watching the live stream from the delivery room.
So
probably
yeah,
probably one of the more unique things that the people in the hospital have seen.
that's awesome.
Yeah. It was
You
pretty
guys are
cool.
watching a 250-mile race.
They're like this is the one thing we are actually going to be done and out of here before our friend gets home. And we killed you. We crushed you by like
Oh,
a long shot.
were you guys one day and done at the hospital?
We spent the night because we came in at like 1 a.m.
Yeah, yeah.
But then we spent the next night. I think we had to.
So we did.
I don't know. Spent the next night. But then we still went home and like you still had another full day, which
Okay.
was yeah, pretty interesting. Um
So I would just say that it's
yeah.
like, how is my race fundamentally different if I am spending a maximum of 10 minutes at every non-sleep spot?
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm probably shaving 30 minutes off of each of those encounters, you know? And I have found in my experience that even when shit hits the fan, I'm still able to move at like 3 miles an hour. Like that's like
Mhm.
death taxes me moving at 3 miles an hour. You know, those are the constants. And so I think even if I'm like sacrificing a little bit of lounging and rest, I think the me just moving, purely like putting one foot in front of the other continuously down the trail, like that rhythm, it will be
Yeah.
good, you know. And I also think last year, we there were just some like things that like were gear related for the crew that I didn't factor. Like
Yeah.
they only had Airbnb in Flag. Like we never got an Airbnb in Prescott or Sedona, and this year we have an Airbnb corresponding to the place I'll be on each of the end of those nights. Like end of day one,
Okay.
Prescott; end of day two, Sedona; end of day three, Flag. Like they'll be taken care of, and
Yeah.
like our van will be way more streamlined. Like we won't have. I'm not bringing a ton of gear. I brought a lot of contingencies last year, and it was just wasted space and headache. And I want to just like keep the main thing, keep it simple for them, not having to like worry about where things are, what to pick. It's like,
Yeah.
here's the menu.
Who's on the crew this year?
Couple veterans returning. We've got my brother Ned Melanson and cousin Jeremiah Mullane. They are like the exact people I found after last year that I want to be in the trenches with me. Jeremiah is an AT through hiking alum. My brother is he's just a good athlete, you know, like played lacrosse in college and stuff. And I think he appreciates these environments. He ended up doing like 35 to 40 miles of pacing with me last year, kind of off the couch, and he was like setting the pace, which was great. We have the legendary Joey Campanelli joining the crew. He's going to do major pacing miles. I think he's going to do. I mean, if he has his way, he's pacing me from Whiskey Row to the finish and basically doing Cocodona. He's a wild man, but I think he's at least doing about 80, and he's the exact guy I want in my corner for this. He had the Nolan's overall FKT forever. I think he still has the unsupported. It's a ridiculous time. Has the southbound AT FKT. Uh, he had the Whirl FKT for a while. He's just like great at this stuff, and
Mhm.
he's kind of my Obi-Wan Kenobi for Cocodona. And last year he got like last year we were reflecting on the data, and like he paced me up until Walnut Canyon last year. I think from I gosh I can't remember exactly, but like we like looked back at that section. We were like, dude, like that was it. Like there's no improvements to be made. Like you led me perfectly through there. So he's back, and then it'll be kind of a skeleton crew compared to last year because like Caleb Olson and Morgan Olson were there, but like Morgan, it's her turn now.
It's
She's giving
yeah.
birth. Maybe I
There
make that.
might be one of those. Yeah. You might
Yep.
be getting some news midway through your race again.
Which would be amazing. And actually, the funny, well, So that's going to get me through, I think, some lows. But the funny thing was last year, like because Caleb likes the adventure, and if he's going to go to Cocodona, he wants to go to the best parts of the course. So instinctively, I was like, oh yeah, like you'll run with me through Sedona, you'll run with me through Eldon, and it just so happened that both of those sections were in the pitch dark, so he saw nothing.
He's probably
He didn't
so
know the
mad.
sections. Yeah, so that's like been a running joke for a while. But they won't be there, and then Jules won't be there either. She's staying back with Sloan. I think it's just for Sloan. It's like the toll of that race. It's hard enough not having a kid, and I think throwing a kid into the mix, it's tough. So I think Jules will be like the remote crew chief. So she'll be following the dot.
Mhm.
She'll be checking in with Ned and Jeremiah and helping them with logistics along the way, just remotely. So yeah, I think it'll be good.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. For anyone who wants to tune in, there will be a live stream that will, I mean, the live stream will be going. They'll be up and running for like most of the race. Like, I think since 2023, when we commentated, there was like maybe 5 or 6 hours of downtime per day. And like that amount of time has only shrunk
Yeah.
since then. I know the ultimate goal was to be cameras rolling for all, I forget how many hours from start to cut off at the finish there is, but
They're
that was
losing a
one of their
commentator.
goals.
They're losing a commentator because AJW is running this year.
That's right.
And he's been
Yeah.
throwing down 100-mile weeks. He's been putting in the work.
Dude, AJW's he's been given a lot of, well, probably not a person, but like a lot of kudos to modern science because he got like a new, what did he get? Like a new hip or a new knee a couple years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
like the old school ones were like, once you do that, they can't handle the impacts of running. And he's like giving the middle finger to that. That's pretty cool.
But Chris Warden will be cooking up something good for the live stream, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. If I guess if they need anyone to remote in,
That'd be
I'll
so cool. You should.
I'll be ready.
You
Yeah.
should.
I mean, you should.
I think
You can pop into the live chat every once in a while.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what, so I'll put a link below to the because I think the live streams are already like scheduled, so you can check that out. I'll put links in the show notes to this trucker hat for one,
Mm-hmm.
and past Cocodona gear episodes. We did a post race episode as well.
Yeah, it was great.
What else? Anything else?
We got a preview episode coming up too. We'll preview the
Yeah.
elite men's and women's fields, which I think are super exciting this year. So we'll cover that soon.
Absolutely. Other than that, it's just a matter of me continuing to sit here in this RGB office watching you run through the desert for 3 days.
Doing it for science, doing it for CP, doing it for Morgan and Caleb. We got a lot of good Ys out there. So we'll make it. I don't know in what shape we're gonna make it, but unless something treacherous happens, we're making it to Flagstaff, and it's always a hoot.
Yo, that famous. What's the famous? Is it a right turn or a left turn?
Oh, I think it's right on.
It's just a
Birch.
right.
Left on Birch or right on Birch. I think it's left on Birch.
I can't remember. Oh, Matt.
I think it's left.
Matt.
But I'm never
Matt Feldex.
Yeah.
If Matt Feldex listening to this right now, he's gonna be so mad at both of us for not remembering if it's right or left.
Dude, can I tell you one piece of gear that we didn't mention, which I think would be like fascinating for the CP crew?
Let's do it. What do you got?
The on ice vest.
Oh, how did we forget the on ice vest?
Bonus.
The straight jacket. Okay.
The on straight jacket. So, okay, for context, again, we were just talking amongst our friends. I was kind of throwing out the bat signal for stuff, especially on like late day 1, all day 2 of Cocodona, where you have enough crew interactions to throw ice in. Like, what hat should I get? What gloves? Like leggings, vests. Leah has had cool ones. I've seen the Nike athletes use some cool ones. Ryan Sands and Courtney had that famous like Mario type hat.
Oh yeah, the toad hat.
I would love to get one of those. If anyone knows where they are, I'd love to get one for this race. But anyways, our good friend of the podcast, friend of CP, Jeff Colt, mailed me this and came with the tags. Like he hadn't even used it yet, so I got to give it back to him after. But there are 2 places up front to throw ice. You can throw it in the left front side and the right front side, and then on the back you've got one up towards the neck and then towards like the middle back, and you can toggle these straps just for like tightness or looseness based on how much you're throwing in. And yeah, it's just like a super nice material made by On. This is an all gender vest too, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, I think especially on the sections of the course where I'm vest only, I'm definitely wearing this. I might do a test run later this weekend where I have this with ice underneath the Ultimate Direction Pack, and we'll see how that does.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
this will be, I'm kind of going in a little bit unknown with this, but I didn't do a ton around dumping heat last year, so we'll see how it goes.